on the offensive against renegade rebels in the Philippines, days after a landmark pact for peace. The last throes of a decades-old conflict or the start of a deadly new phase of unrest. This is Inside Story. Hello, I'm Adrian Finnegan. This is Inside Story, focusing today on the Philippines and yet more fighting in the south of the country. The army is taking on hardline separatists who are opposed to a new peace deal between the government and a main rebel group. Malaysian brokered talks with leaders of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front have raised hopes for peace in the southern island of Mindanao. The MILF had been leading a rebellion since the 1970s aimed at winning independence, or at the very least autonomy, for the country's Muslim minority. The government is granting members an amnesty as part of the peace deal. But here's the problem. A number of smaller rebel factions have been excluded and appear determined to fight on. We'll have the views of our panel in just a moment after the latest from Al Jazeera's Jamila Alindogan, who's in Maguindanao on Mindanao Island.
The Philippine military describes this as an all-out offensive against the Bangsamoro Islamic freedom fighters in the southern Philippines. It says it aims to put an end to the rebels' clandestine operations, particularly in the area of Maguindanao. As early as Monday morning, attacks against the rebels have been relentless.
I think they are amenable to extend our operations to put a stop to this. That's why as of today, we are requesting that our operations will be extended for an additional 72 hours.
This operation comes just days after the Philippine government announced it has already completed peace talks with the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. That agreement aims to end the decades-long rebellion in the southern Philippines. And the BIFF is in its way. It broke away from the MILF in 2008 and is opposing the peace talks, claiming these do not represent the needs of the Moro people. The Philippine military operation has been sanctioned by the MILF, which can soon mean an end for the BIFF fighters. And this is what less than 2 days of armed conflict has brought. At least 30,000 people have already been displaced. Cadalino Magulayan woke up with the sound of military soldiers marching in, and he said all he could do was to grab whatever he could of his belongings.
When the soldiers started coming, we started running away. We couldn't pass through proper roads, so we just went through swamps and canals.
Like many others here, he sought refuge in a nearby village. They have not eaten since Monday afternoon, and all they ever really want is to know when they can go back home. For generations, these people have been displaced by war, and yet they still keep asking the same questions. Why them? Why are they being dragged into conflicts they have nothing to do with, when all they really want, they say, is to be able to live a life in peace? The Muslim rebellion in Mindanao is one of the world's longest protracted war. It has killed over 150,000 people and displaced millions more. And so people here are now pinning their hopes on the impending peace deal. It may be signed in the next coming weeks, but they remain wary, because a true and lasting peace in Mindanao may take far longer. Jamila Alindogan for Inside Story in Datupiang in Maguindanao, southern Philippines.
All right, lots to discuss today. Let's bring in our guests on the program. Joining us from Maguindanao on Mindanao Island is Major General Romeo Gapuz, a Philippine Army commander there. You saw him in Jamila's report just a few moments ago. In the Philippine capital, Manila, we have Stephen Rood, the Asia Foundation's country representative for the Philippines and Pacific Island nations. And via Skype from Cotabato on Mindanao, Peter Deck, head of the Mindanao operations for the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR. Gentlemen, welcome to Inside Story. Major General, if we can begin with you, bring us up to speed with how your operation against the BIFF is going. We heard you talking about their needing some extra time. Is 72 hours going to be enough?
First of all, we would like to make it clear that our action is not unilateral. This is a joint effort between the MILF and the Philippine Security Forces to conduct peace and security operations on the known layers of the BIFF. So the Philippine Security Forces me as the commander has actually asked permission from the MILF hierarchy if we could possibly conduct law enforcement operations. So our operations is actually time-bound, as the MILF has agreed that we have to conduct our operations for 72 hours. And we started it last Monday at 5 a.m. and we're looking forward it will end on Thursday morning at 5 a.m. But as of the moment, because of the skirmishes that have been happening, we are planning to put up a request for additional 72 hours in order for us to finish and at the same time establish the peace and serenity that our province would like it to be.
All right, you said there that this is a joint operation between you, your forces, and the MILF. Is the MILF helping you, fighting on the ground?
No, as I've said, it is a joint decision because normally the Philippine security forces cannot conduct law enforcement operations without the approval of the joint panel. So our operation is always dependent on the approval of the MILF.
All right. So what are the aims of the operation? Is it to neutralize the BIFF, to disarm them, to take them into custody?
As far as the Philippine security forces that is operating now, where we would like to finish the skirmishes that they have started last December, and we would like to put an end to all these lawless strategies or tactics that they are employing in our province, so that the area of 6th Infantry Division can now achieve the peace and serenity that we would like it to be.
The BIFF is a splinter group that formed after the 2008 peace deal, which we'll get on to talk about with our guests in just a while. But are you satisfied that they can be contained? I mean, what are their numbers at the moment?
As far as the area of the Joint Task Force Central, they are about 100 plus. And they are actually prepositioned in a certain area between the SPMS box. And we're trying to contain so that their lawless strategies and tactics will not go to the neighboring provinces of Maguindanao. So it is necessary, and we have explained it to the MILF, and fortunately we were given the go signal to conduct said operations.
All right, Major General, please stay with us. We'll be back to you in a while. Before we bring in our other guests, it may be worth reiterating something that Jamela was saying in her report. This rebellion in the Philippines has been prolonged and costly. Minority Muslims took up arms in the early 1970s, seeking autonomy and a better life in Mindanao. Up to 150,000 people are estimated to have been killed since then, mostly civilians. But a comprehensive peace has been elusive. A deal was agreed with the Moro National Liberation Front in 1996, but little else was achieved. And in 2008, peace talks with the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, founded on the question of autonomy. The struggle has left around half of the region's population in poverty, with millions displaced from their homes. The latest deal, reached on Saturday, aims to create a better funded and potentially larger region to be known as Bangsamoro. But again, the agreement is with just one group, the MILF. And even past President Joseph Estrada says that the deal is destined to fail. He served from 1998 to 2001, proclaiming that he started an all-out war against the MILF, adding, "Sometimes you have to wage war to earn peace. You have to show them that there is only one flag, one armed forces of the Philippines, one government. If I wasn't unseated, I would have finished off that secessionist movement." Stephen Rood in Manila, is this landmark peace deal going to end violence in Mindanao or exacerbate it?
It will begin to end the violence in Mindanao. The problems down there, the spread of arms, the general problems with law and order are sufficiently entrenched that it will take some time, some calming period before we can say that the violence will end entirely. However, as you've seen in the reports, what is going on now is cooperation between the Moro Islamic Liberation Front and the armed forces of the Philippines in order to run after those who are not accepting the peace, in order to be able to try to enforce the law.
So are fighters opposed to this deal going to continue their campaign of violence, or can they eventually be brought into the fold? The BIFF says the deal isn't inclusive and doesn't represent the needs of their people. Do we even know what they want?
Well, the BIFF is termed the Bangsamoro Independence Freedom Fighters still believe that what is necessary to address their demands is to have independence. However, more and more of the rebel factions over the past decades have been led to conclude that independence is just not feasible. They might desire it in their hearts, but in the current situation, it is not going to happen. And so what they need is autonomy and control of their own affairs so that they themselves can enforce the peace and bring a little bit more normality to the lives of the people down there.
Peter Deck in Cotabato from the UNHCR. Peter, tell us about the humanitarian situation in the south of the country. The area is rich in resources, but about half of its people live in grinding poverty.
Yes, and as your reporter previously reported, that at present, in addition to the previous displacement, we just now have a new approximately 30,000 displaced. In 2013 alone, displacement related to conflict, and that's, we'll say, military forces, AFP, on the MILF, and other actors, including the BIFF, and inter-family clan fighting, and with natural disasters, just in the area that we're talking about. I'm not talking about all of Mindanao, but just in this autonomous region of Muslim Mindanao, over 400,000 people have been displaced in 2013 alone. So, of course, that has a great impact on the humanitarian situation. And just previously to this, we'll say this conflict here that's taking place, this operation, there was about, from the same region, we had estimated about 25,000 people had been displaced. So we're talking now well over 50,000 people from this region. So of course that really impacts on the humanitarian situation,
so, Peter,
for people to access their basic livelihoods.
So Peter, if peace holds, what will be the main humanitarian challenges for organizations such as yours? I mean, how do you go about repatriating the thousands who've been displaced by the fighting?
Well, we don't repatriate. It's up to the people. How do they feel? Do they feel secure to return to where they were previously living? And we hope that this peace agreement does take hold. And as Mr. Rood pointed out, it is a start. It reduces conflict, and it's a start of a process that we can work together. When I say we, the UN, who I work for, the Refugee Agency, and other UN actors, with NGOs, with civil society, work with the government to build those, we'll say, confidence amongst the community. To build those institutions that can help the people feel more secure, that they can come back and stay on their land. But the experts, which one of them or a couple of them on your panel are, that it will require for people to feel secure, they have to feel confident they can stay on their land. So actually, to feel confident they can stay on their land.
Stephen Rood, I see you nodding in agreement there.
Yes, if you take a look at the agreement that was reached in Kuala Lumpur over the weekend, you will see that it is entitled the Normalization Annex to the Framework Agreement for the Bangsamoro. meaning that this final piece was how to return people to normal lives, how to decommission the MILF, how to put their arms beyond use, how to turn the law enforcement functions, which now require the armed forces of the Philippines, how to turn it over to a police force for the Bangsamoro, and how to take the communities back to the kind of situation that was just being mentioned of having a normal life, going back to their land, trying to earn a living through their own efforts instead of running away from conflict.
Major General Gapuz, you've been listening with interest to the discussion here. Perhaps you could. You're confident that your operation will mop up these BIFF fighters this week. What happens then? How do you go about bringing normalcy back to the region? What will the Army's role be in that?
Actually, the Armed Forces of the Philippines, prior to the launching of said operations, we have coordinated with the different agencies of the United Nations that in case internal displacement will happen or evacuation is going to happen, we are more than willing to help them accomplish their own mission. And the one that's happening now is not actually internally displaced persons, but actually evacuations. Because before the launching of our operations, we give ample time for the MILF forces to reposition in some places that is far away, that cannot be reached by our operations, to include their communities. And we have also alerted the different municipalities that once the operations will be launched, then help us feed or accommodate the different evacuees coming from that operational area. So basically, the displacement is temporary, and the local government and together with the different international agencies are helping us mitigate the situations as of the moment.
But Major General, what about the fighters who've
fighting?
But Major General, what about the fighters who've transferred their allegiance in the wake of this deal, taking their weapons with them? They won't be part of any normalization program. The South will still be awash with armed men, won't it?
As far as our operation is concerned, we are targeting only the lowest element, which is considered to be the BIFF. And we consider them to be a potential spoilers of the peace process. And at the same time, we would like to put a stop to their lawless strategies. As far as the normalization process as approved by the both panel, I think I am not in the position because I haven't read anything as to how the Philippine government and the MILF is going to do the normalization process. So as far as the covenant that has been signed, we await what will be the functions of the armed process relative to the fourth annex, which is normalization.
Peter Deck from the UNHCR, is the era of kidnappings over in that part of the world? Is it safe for organisations such as yours to bring the humanitarian aid that's needed there?
I don't know if the kidnapping is over. My organization, the UN, is very concerned about security issues, which does hinder our operations to quite some degree. So I really can't comment on the kidnapping. But I would like to just say, to comment on what the General just said, to reiterate that we've had very good cooperation with the military, particularly in this operation. And I just know that people who have worked closely with the military, I will just say in Mindanao, for a long time, they have said that there's been excellent increased cooperation. Just yesterday, our office, we spent 2 hours with the General and his different commanders discussing how we can help and coordinate together. So and the effort to take in the humanitarian considerations to make sure this is an operation that is finished as soon as possible, so as not to exasperate the those humanitarian concerns, and to try to, as the General said, to give fair warning to the population so they can leave with the required things that they need. So we do hope that this is over as soon as possible, so people, and it's communicated clearly to the population that there will be no other operations in their village areas, so they can return.
Okay.
Because that's where the people are best protected, back on their own land.
Stephen Rood, every Philippine government since independence in 1946 has struggled to bring peace to the restive South. Has President Aquino managed to do it this time? And if so, how did he manage to bring about this deal?
Well, there's a couple of factors. One real factor is his personal determination and the fact that the Moro Islamic Liberation Front trusted that determination. He comes from a family that has repeatedly over the decades reached out. His martyred father reached out in the early 1980s to the Moros to try to come together in an anti-dictatorship front. His mother went to Sulu, the heartland of the NLF, to meet with Nur Miswari against the advice of all her advisors. President Aquino himself went to Tokyo to meet with Chairman Murad of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. In short, he's shown a great amount of determination to reach an agreement. Secondly, he's been very cautious to be sure that he's built a widespread consensus about it, doing it more slowly and openly than had previously been done, so that people in Mindanao and throughout the country were not particularly surprised when this last agreement was reached.
Okay.
He laid the groundwork, in short.
Stephen, President Arroyo negotiated a peace deal with the MILF in 2008. That deal didn't work. There was a peace deal with the MNLF in 1996. That didn't take hold. Is this deal destined for the same fate, or are things different this time?
I don't think so, for a couple of reasons. The 2008 deal fell through in part because of mistrust of the motives of then President Arroyo, thinking that perhaps she was using it as a maneuver to stay in power as her term ended. And nobody thinks that President Aquino wants to stay in power. They all know that he plans to step down in 2016. The 1996 final peace agreement, supposedly with the Moro National Liberation Front, foundered in part because of the Asian financial crisis that happened in '98, so that resources weren't available. Whereas now in the Philippine economy, as it is booming, government resources can be added to the overseas assistance that can be used to bring people back to a normal life in Muslim Mindanao. So for a couple of reasons, I think that this has a real shot at making a difference over the next few years. And once people become convinced that it's different, once they have confidence in the peace process, a virtuous spiral can take hold.
Major General, possibly the last word to you in our discussion here. Are you confident that your operation and this landmark peace deal is going to bring peace to the southern Philippines?
That's why we're going to put an end to all of this, and we're just anticipating that we might have to request for additional time from the MILF. And we have prepared already the letter, just in case we weren't able to finish it on the time bound that was given to us for 72 hours. But we are confident that we are going to finish this, and hopefully the peace that we would like to be established in our area of operations will be maintained, and development will come in. So we're just hoping that one of the stumbling blocks for all this peace process, we're going to finish it and then give a statement to it.
And how long before people can return safely to their homes?
We're looking at, as I've said, if we can finish it by Thursday morning, then Thursday afternoon they can go back to their respective areas.
Well, let's hope so.
And we alerted the different local government units to include, as I've said, all other international agencies to help us bring them to the desired place where they came from.
Okay.
So we appreciate the cooperations, and we're very thankful for the different local government units for helping us on this regard.
Gentlemen, there we must end our discussion. Many thanks to all of you. From Maguindanao, Major General Romeo Gapuz, in Manila, Stephen Rood, And from Cotabato on Mindanao, Peter Deck from the UNHCR. A reminder, you can find this Inside Story again if you want to watch it again, and many more at aljazeera.com. In Doha, I'm Adrian Finnegan. Thanks for watching. From me and from all of the team here, bye for now.